And we're back with ckacast number 11. I don't know why I'm holding up two fingers. Number 11. 11 of these episodes already. That's insane. I don't know why I'm even doing this, but my brain's a little bit fried today because last night I was out in Burn. We did a comedy show there with the American stand-up show with Amit Bilge, and we had a good comedy buddy of mine from America, Bryan Vokey. I love this guy. It was a great show. Bryan absolutely killed. And I got to say, I've seen quite a few American comedians come through Switzerland, and it takes them a while to figure it out because Switzerland has a unique dynamic, like the things that people will laugh at, the references. People speak English here, which gives like maybe American comedians assume, oh, well, these guys will get all the cultural references and specific words that I use. In fact, no, but Bryan's done this a few times. He nailed it. It was beautiful. And it was a fantastic show. I had a lot of fun on stage as well. But today I got home like 1 a.m. and it's like a lot of snow coming down. I had to get on a train in Alton at midnight. I mean, you know, that's how dangerously I'm living. And funny thing about Bryan is back when I used to do the XYZ podcast, we had one successful video, and it's the one with Bryan in it, because it goes back to a famous event of Bill Burr going on Kill Tony and trashing Tony Hinchcliffe. And that episode of Kill Tony where Bill Burr was on, Bryan happened to be on that show. And on the XYZ podcast, we got him talking about it. We cut that into a short video. That video got 250,000 views already. Bryan jokes, yeah, you fucked up my career. Because what's fascinating is, okay, a lot of people like the video, but it's one of these divisive videos. There are so many angry comments on this who totally, like, clearly none of them understood what the fuck's going on in the video. It's not about the fact that I don't know, whatever. I mean, you can watch the video. Here's a little clip of it. So the XYZ podcast, if you search for that time Bill Burr trashed Tony Hinchcliffe on Kill Tony, that's what Bryan looks like. Let's just play a little bit. I love Bryan. I gotta say, and Bryan, I don't know if Bryan's gonna watch this. He's actually such a nice guy as well. He's done some wild shit in his life. He's a fantastic comedian. He doesn't need fucking Kill Tony fans support to, and you know, and I mean, he gave me some. Oh shit! There we go. Look. Anyway, technical details. I should pay more attention to things. He gave me a beautiful, like I had a bit last night, and then after the show, he's like, "Hey, dude, that bit you did, I really like it. Why don't you add this and this?" I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Okay, let's just get a little bit of Bryan because this guy's fantastic. And then he comes over here to Switzerland to perform. I think it's beautiful.
Anyway, like I was in the army. I was a preschool teacher. I toured the world in punk bands. Now I do stand-up comedy. And Bill Burr's like, and I'm an astronaut. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, exactly.
This dude's a fucking psycho, man. This guy is going to get his own show, and he's going to be a fucking lunatic. Like, he has no remorse, no guilt, no fucking responsibility for your own actions. You're a fucking dirtbag, man. Fucking dirtbag.
Yes.
Wow. God help this guy when he gets some fucking power in the world. This is going to be bad.
Yeah, okay, check it out. I mean, and the thing is, nobody understands. They think like roasting and trashing is like comedians are actually having fights. This is like some UFC shit. No, we roast each other all the time. We're just giving each other shit in funny ways. And that's what we do. It's a race to see who can, because we're always going for like that bit where you feel it in your gut. You're like, oh, you asshole for saying that. And then you laugh about it. And the funny thing is like Bryan is like, yeah, I'm not gonna pass up a chance to get roasted by Bill Burr. And it's just like this moment because Bill Burr's being nice to all these absolute beginner comedians, but when he sees Bryan actually as a real comedian, he's like, oh, I can lay into this guy. And it's a beautiful scene. But I mean, again, all the comments on it, people are dumb, man. Jesus Christ. Everyone's just, I mean, it does, I mean, you know, it's just like you want to get angry. You want to express your rage. Something that you love has been attacked. I mean, this is why anyone commenting angrily on YouTube should never try comedy. Because if you're that fucking sensitive. Anyway. So I'm just getting my fried brain growing. I can't even say words today. It's been. Have you ever had that feeling like where your brain is really like? Because I got like both my temples. There's just this feeling of like, because it's just been overused. I've been overstimulating my brain. I'm drinking orange pea today. This is actually Barocca. Barocca is one of these things. Actually, this is a side note. This podcast is sponsored by Barocca. Barocca are these tablets. It's like a vitamin mineral tablet. And like, because I'm an idiot, I drink them every morning. I've been doing that for years. And it helps me like not get flu and this kind of stuff. I don't know even what really is in this shit. Recently I discovered that it actually contains caffeine. So no wonder I'm fucking addicted to these things. Anyway, they make the best part is that it goes in orange, like this bright orange. It makes your pee green. That's fantastic. Like really like glowing, incredible Hulk piss. Actually, you know, I was doing a bit last night. There's a bit of talk about, you know, like, because I'm a dad. That's actually what I want to talk about today, maybe. Is I'm a dad, and you know it's just the whole thing nowadays is like there's this weird dynamic of like people like, I don't really want to have kids, you know. It's like the way the world is now, it's just so hard for children. And the bit I do is like, you know, I get it, because you know having kids is shit, will fuck up your life, but I mean, think about it. Like, human beings, Homo sapiens, have been on this planet, according to history, at least 300,000 years, possibly longer. And so that actually, if you do the maths on that, that's about 11,000 generations of people throughout 300,000 people to get down to where we are now. Now, if you think about that, sex only got good about 20 years ago. And we only invented soap about 100 years ago and consent about 5 years ago. It's just like, how much traumatic shit did the human race go through for us to be here today? I mean, they've like hunger, war, saber-toothed tigers, you know, you're like getting chased by this fucking cat. And all of those people, like throughout the generations, struggled and fought and had kids and protected them and fed them, and they grew up and had more kids. And now here we are going, I just, you know, I'd rather have a frappuccino with oat milk than have children, because the world is so hard. It's not actually, people. Like, it's in your brain. It's never been this easy for human beings on the planet. It's like insanely easy. Now, another thing is like, you know, when people say, I just, you know, I really feel bad for kids growing up in the world today with like social media and all this stuff. And, you know, really, like, you think it's that bad? I mean, again, it's like it's a context thing. Something new comes in, we don't understand it, we get worried by it. But let me give you a prime example, okay? If you look at the children's stories that we tell now compared to the ones from 100 years ago, even the ones I grew up with, there's one that's very popular these days called the Gruffalo. And the Gruffalo is a story of a mouse that goes into a forest that's full of predators. Like there's a snake and a fox and I forget what the other animal is. And he convinces all these predators that want to eat him, like that he's got this friend called the Gruffalo who's really scary and is right behind him. So be careful. Like he's warning the predators. And then this goes on until he actually meets a real Gruffalo that he thought he'd made up. And then the Gruffalo wants to eat him. And he's like, okay, but wait, come back with me. And he introduces the Gruffalo to all the predators. And the predators see the Gruffalo behind him and they start freaking out, but the Gruffalo thinks it's the mouse. So the mouse tricks everybody in the story, which is an interesting moral to tell your kids. It's like, if you don't want to get eaten by a predator, if you want to survive the predators, lie. That's number one. But if you want to become the alpha predator in the forest, like this mouse does, lie spectacularly. That's how you get to the top, which explains most of the CEOs and politicians on this planet. Maybe the Gruffalo. I mean, I used to read this to my kids as well, and I never thought about it until I started thinking recently about it. It's actually a really like messed up moral to be telling kids. That basically you can lie to get, like, convince people of shit. This mouse is at least the best salesman ever. And so the mouse survives, basically, and it's a happy ending. And as you read it as a parent, you're kind of like, yeah, this is a clever mouse. I like this. I want my kids to be clever, like sociopathic predators that lie to everybody. As a parent, you're like, yes, that's what I want for my child. No, it's actually pretty messed up, but it's a cute story. The pictures are good. I think they've even turned it into a show on Netflix, or they made a movie out of it or something. Anyway, but that's like, nobody dies, like all the predators, like, so it's a nice story for kids, but the thing is like, when you compare that to what even I grew up with to a certain extent, like let's come on, let me show you a similar thing. This is a Grimm's fairy tale. Now, many of the Grimm's fairy tales, we know some of them, like the brothers Grimm were apparently these dudes that went around in the Middle Ages around Europe collecting all these stories from like peasants and local people and farmers and whoever. And if you've ever read like a complete sort of unedited modern version, and I once did that, it's like pretty much all the stories are just a bloodbath. Like I remember this one where it's and they have no point, a lot of them. Like there's one where like a couple of chickens decide to go for a walk, and then all these other farm animals join them, like a goose and a duck and even a fox for some reason. And then they get in a boat and swim across and start rowing across the lake. And then for some reason, the boat capsizes and everybody dies. And that's the end of the story. And that's what you tell your child before they go to bed. It's like, what the fuck? And, okay, we know some of the more sanitized, or there's the one about I think probably actually most of these things, like the 3 Billy Goats Gruff was probably collected by the brothers Grimm. There's another one about, what is it, the wolf that eats the baby sheep, like there's 7 of them, it eats 6. The smallest one is the smart one. The mum comes home, they find the wolf asleep with 6 sheep in there. They cut the wolf open, take the lamb out, all these baby lambs who are still alive miraculously, fill the wolf's stomach with stones and zip them back up, which is actually pretty, but it's at least they outsmart the wolf. And that's like a nice Grimm's story. Let me give you an example compared to the Gruffalo, another story involving a mouse. So this one's called Cat and Mouse in Partnership. And basically this story, there's like this cat and this mouse, they're good buddies, and winter's coming. So they come up with a plan so they're not going to starve at winter, which is they get a jar of fat and they hide it in a church. And they're like, when we get hungry, we're going to go and eat the fat, and that's how we're going to make it through winter. Of course, the cat, it just can't resist, and it keeps going back to the church and like eating some of the fat. This goes on through the winter until the cat finishes the fat. The mouse finally gets hungry, goes to the church to eat some of the fat, and discovers it's all gone. And then he's like accusing the cat, like, hey, what do you do with all the fat? The cat's like, well, yeah, I ate the fat. And then the cat eats the mouse. And that's the end of the story. That is the happy ending. Like, what are you supposed to do? It's like, oh, if your friend is an alpha predator compared to you, then expect to get eaten. Is that the moral of the story? Actually, that's a pretty good, like, if your friend is a cat and you're a mouse, then maybe you need a different friend. Okay, that's kind of a reasonable story. But let's get a little bit darker here, because there's another one. Let's just get this up here. Yeah, now this one is, I think it's called the Fitcher's bird. And you can already see from the picture, there's this woman with a dude behind her with an axe, and there's like 7 severed heads of women. And this story is basically these 3 sisters, and basically it's what happens is there's this sorcerer who kidnaps these 3 sisters and takes them to his house in the woods and says, there's this one room you should never go in. Don't go in this room. And he gives them all an egg for some reason. I guess the egg is a symbol of their innocence, let's say. And the 3 sisters, like the 2 older ones, go in the room and discover there's this basin full of blood and body parts everywhere. And then they get killed and chopped up. And finally, the youngest sister goes in there and she somehow survives. And I forgot even the end of this thing. It's basically like, it's like reading your kids a book about Jeffrey Dahmer, except instead of gay men, it's women. Like what? And this is the stuff we would read to kids then. And now people are like, yeah, like I want to be a kid now. They get the Gruffalo. They get taught how to be a massive sociopath versus, hey, there's these like, I don't know, there are these psychos out there that are going to chop you up and eat you and kidnap you. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, actually it was interesting recently, like, I mean, if I look at how my kids deal with social media, we talk about it quite a lot. We talk about its addictive nature, but also we all have our moments of addiction. It's this moment where you're, you know, actually that's an interesting thing. Let me just explain that quickly. So there's this concept called ego depletion. And there's different ways to look at it, but basically you get up in the morning, you've got a plan, you've got energy to do something with your day. And by the way, here's Harry's hot tip. The first 15 minutes of, so by the way, there's a new segment. I'm going to put this in every episode. It's called Harry's hot tip, because I have hot tips for you. So number 1, this is Harry's hot tip. Number 1 is start your day. The first just give yourself 15 minutes without looking at your phone. Just give yourself 15 minutes to just like let your brain wake up and have a little bit of a thought about what you want to do today. And if you just do that, it will make a massive difference to your life. If you wake up in the morning, stare at your phone, read some tweets, look at some TikToks, whatever you're doing, you've already put other people's shit in your brain and you're just going to walk around like a zombie all day. So that's Harry's hot tip. I talk about this kind of stuff a lot with my kids. And, you know, it's always a challenge. Like, the thing is, where this stuff gets you is when you're tired. So this idea of ego depletion is that you wake up in the morning. Now, the term ego depletion, we have a negative connotation with ego, but it means you could look at it in a more, I don't know, like spiritual sense, is that you have periods where your consciousness is active, where you're deciding what you're doing with your life, where you're present. But then you have times where you're tired and you just aren't there and your subconscious kind of takes over. And that's usually like after a day of work when you're tired, where you just like I just want to switch off. That statement means switch off the brain. And that's where you pull out your phone and start staring at bullshit. And okay, this is something, if I look at my kids, what's interesting about, you know, they're basically both Gen Z. They know a lot about a lot of things. They have like, I gotta say, honestly, despite the fact my daughter is the older one, my son he's smarter about his analysis of the facts. my daughter would be like, have you heard? Because like some random video reporting a half conspiracy theory said that, you know, this is going to happen. And so she hasn't quite learned how to balance the stuff as well. Meanwhile, like my son recently, I heard him listening to one of these kind of like advice about women type things. And there's some dude who he's got a podcast talking about what women want and what men want and blah, blah, blah. Hell, you know the shit. And so I heard him, because he didn't have headphones, listening to this thing. So I asked him, like, what do you think of this? You see, now that's parental skills. I don't go in with the judgment. I just ask a question. What do you think about what this guy's saying? And he says to me, well, I've seen a few of his videos and, you know, he has some interesting points, but at the same point, he often says, I don't hate women. And the fact that he says that so much says, maybe you do kind of hate women. And for an 18-year-old, I'm like, well, I don't know. Actually, you know, as you get older, you just assume an 18-year-old is stupid. Like there's a full brain there. I forget what it was like to be 18, but I'm pretty sure I felt like a smart dude at that point. And I just thought his analysis there, this point of when someone keeps saying something, probably the opposite is true. Like I'm like, I did a good job as a dad, apparently. Like that actually pretty much blew my mind. So I don't know. I mean, I think the downside of social media or YouTube giving you all this like knowledge about the world takes away the mystery of things. You know, it's like I see this with my kids. You know, young people I meet at comedy shows. They know a lot about a lot of things, but they haven't experienced this stuff themselves. And that's kind of I don't know. Like it's a bit like when I was growing up. Like I remember we grew up with all these stories of like, you know, how the world was discovered. All these people like Shackleton and Amundsen, these dudes that went to like the North Pole or up a mountain or whatever they did, or discovered like some part of the Congo. Discovered. I mean, there was people already living there, but when a white person shows up, we're like, oh, we found a whole place, and you know, like these people, we don't care. But anyway. And so, you know, I grew up in this era where there's like all these things to be, we're told there's all this, you know, places to discover and explore and blah, blah, blah. But then actually when we looked them out, we're like, wait a second, it's all been freaking found already. Like, where's the discovery? And so it was kind of a bit depressing that all these stories we've been given, there were, you know, but then along came the internet and programming, and we discovered this whole new virtual territory with so much to discover. So that was exciting to me. And what I wonder a little bit is, where is the mystery and excitement for young people if you can get a video that will explain stuff to you in such a way that, you know, your parents or your teachers are stupid in comparison? Because there's some great content on the internet. You can learn about a lot of things. You can, whatever it might be. And it gives a kind of a slanted view, I think, that you have a lot of knowledge, but you don't have experience. And what I wonder is if that knowledge holds you back from actually doing stuff. Because there's a difference between knowledge and experience. You have a theoretical view of how things are based on, you know, whatever YouTube expert or podcasts or whatever you listen to. But then there's actually doing something firsthand. Like, there are people reviewing comedy shows and talking endlessly about comedy and different comedians and their opinions. And some of those people, they got insightful stuff, but they've never done comedy. Comedy, for me, comedy is a beautiful example, because comedy cannot be taught. It's something you learn experientially, and it's something that you feel in your body the more you do it. There is some stuff you can learn to get you started, like how to structure jokes, different techniques like that. But in the end, to get good at comedy, and I see that, I've been doing it 5 years now, is there's a level where you just learn stuff and it changes you, and you get it's almost like I change personality, or something comes out when I'm on stage. And I don't know, maybe I'm on a path to ruin myself, but this thing is getting stronger and stronger every time I do comedy. It's just like my ability to project my comedy persona and do my jokes and stay in that and stay with the crowd gets better and better. And I don't know who that person is going to become, but it's learned by experience. It's like they say, it takes 10 years to be a comedian. You got to be on that stage interacting with different crowds, different people, different size crowds. I need to do some bigger shows. I guess the biggest I've done right now is, we had like an open air show. Is about 1,000 people there. But I mean, most of it is more like club comedy. So like, I don't know, between 20 and 50 people. Done some shows at 200. And there's a different dynamic. Each crowd has its own personality. So if a crowd has a personality, you can think of it as a single entity. Sometimes it's a split personality or multiple personality disorder. I don't know where I'm going with this now. I'm just rambling, just comedy things. Anyway, what was the whole point here? So my message for today is we have it pretty fucking good, people. Like, let's stop this whole doom saying, like, it's the end of the world. No, it fucking isn't. The only way the world ends is if some stupid human beings do some dumb shit. Like, we're going to be fine. And it's never been this good for humanity on the planet. We've got a few things to fix, but, I just fix that shit if need be. But mostly, like, life is good. So, have some children. It will ruin your life, but it's also a beautiful thing. That's the final point. Having children, it's the last connection we have to how things were like for those people 300,000 years ago. Because, actually, I'm going to do this in another episode. So I'll tell you what it's like to have kids and why you should have it another time. All right, that's been ckacast, just pumping it out there. My brain is starting to come to life. The caffeine, the Barocca. I'm going to go and piss green now.